Washington Irving was born April 3, 1783 in New York City, 5 days after the Revolutionary War ended, to William and Sarah Irving. As a child, Washington Irving was uninterested in school, yet was an avid reader who, quote, immersed himself in romance and adventure tales, in Burns, Addison, Goldsmith, Columbus, the conquest of Mexico, and in everything English and European. Irving's fiancée, Matilda Hoffman, passed away. Then, in 1810, Irving's father passed away. 2 years later, in 1817, Irving's mother passed away. These three deaths that I've mentioned so far were probably what pushed Irving towards the Gothic style.
Things you have to remember is that Washington Irving had a great sense of humor, which transcended into his writing. Rather than use a tired old narrator to tell his stories, he creates personas and uses pseudonyms or fake names to publish his stories. One of his early pseudonyms was Diedrich Knickerbocker, which he used as the author of a book he wrote called A History of New York from the Beginning of the World to the End of the Dutch Dynasty. This was a political satire, a piece of writing that uses irony and sarcasm to show flaws in something. Another pseudonym Irving used was Geoffrey Crayon. Geoffrey Crayon is the supposed author of a collection of stories under the title The Sketchbook. These stories, which were greatly influenced by German folk tales, included the legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle, two of the stories he is best known for. He also published an additional set of stories using the Crayon pseudonym called Tales of a Traveler, which included the story The Devil and Tom Walker, another piece heavily influenced by the German legends. In spite of having been greatly influenced by European writing, especially the German legends, Irving's style is all his own. Irving's use of imagery, using words to create a picture in a reader's mind, to create long descriptions of American landscape, set his work apart from those of the European writers. It's through those descriptions that the Hudson Valley really comes to life.
This is the most famous story of a headless horseman and a schoolmaster. The short story's supernatural elements were probably inspired by German folk tales, while its characters were based on people he met. The legend of Sleepy Hollow is set in New York in the Tarrytown settlement in 1790. The main action takes place in an isolated, long, and deep valley called Sleepy Hollow. This area, also known as a glen, gained notoriety because a ghost called the Headless Horseman supposedly haunts it.
The horseman was a Hessian mercenary, sent to these shores by German princes to keep Americans under the yoke of England.
The narrator of Irving's short story is a man named Diedrich Knickerbocker, who claims he's retelling the tale of a man from Manhattan. From his third-person objective point of view, we learn the legend of Ichabod Crane. This schoolmaster wants to marry a young woman named Katrina Van Tassel. However, so does the town hero, Abraham Brombones Van Brunt.
There was no doubt that Ichabod was the man of the hour. Brom knew that he must concede his rival still another victory.
Following an unsuccessful proposal attempt, Crane makes his way home from the harvest party.
Once inside the murky glen, Ichabod's anxiety increased 100-fold. For now, the forest seemed to close in behind him.
Already anxious from having passed several spots that are supposedly haunted, Crane meets a giant but silent cloaked horseman. He becomes afraid when he sees what he thinks is the horseman's head on his saddle. While Crane tries to escape, the horseman throws the head at the schoolmaster that night. Crane is never seen or heard from again, though his clothes, his horse, and a smashed pumpkin remain.
But there was no trace of the schoolmaster.
Irving's short story explores many different themes, like the pursuit of wealth and how greed and gluttony can get the best of people. It touches upon the nature of truth, what it's like to be an outsider, and the relationships between man versus nature and man versus the supernatural. And the short story is one of the most studied pieces of literature today. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow has also been referenced in various media and adapted for film and television. This includes animated versions, made-for-TV movies, and the 1999 feature film.
We cannot win this.